Do you regret your decision?
Really, jiu-jitsu, all sports probably have three aspects. I've fallen a few times.
You're making me feel incredibly boring here, man. A good crash.
Hey Sean.
Hey Ralph.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm good as well. I just wanted to start straight away with the question: how come you became a professional athlete?
Yeah, so basically I was doing martial arts from being a little kid. So just as like a hobby that my parents took me to, but it was Japanese jiu-jitsu. And we did like striking, we did grappling as well, but I always much prefer the grappling. And that was like something that I really enjoyed. And then I started watching a little bit of UFC, so a little copied VHS. So I saw Royce Gracie win the UFC. And then after that I started getting more interested in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But at that time it was super quiet in the UK, it was very hard to get into. And I was always trying to sort of find a way in. I trained very briefly when I was 16. But then when I got a little bit older, I started training more, again, just as a hobby. I started training when I was like 18, and then I started doing some competitions. I would do hit and miss, because I wasn't training that much, like twice, but sometimes once a week. And I just got sick of losing, basically. So I started training more, and then eventually just decided to become full-time.
But what have you been doing just before you decided to do full-time?
Just before I decided to do full-time, I was at university. University of Manchester. And I was training there at a club called Stealth, and I was training there a lot. I was looking to compete, but not like on a big level. I was competing maybe some national level tournaments, but I'd never competed internationally. So I was training that, and then what I did was, there was this, it was like a hostel in Brazil. It doesn't exist anymore, the hostel, but it was called Connection Rio. It was a really cool place. It was like a house where you could have rent individual beds or rooms for almost exclusively jiu-jitsu or MMA fighters that wanted to train in Brazil. I applied for this sponsorship program that they had, and to be honest, they were pretty kind to let me in, to be fair, because my record at that time wasn't great. I wasn't killing in competitions. I was doing good nationally, but not amazing. But I knew as part of going over there, it would mean I wouldn't be able to come back to university because it was across term time. So I decided to go. So I left university, went to Rio for like 3 or 4 months, and then when I came back, I just started training full time.
But what have you been studying in university?
The degree was called Physics with Theoretical Physics.
Are you good at physics?
I was then, probably not anymore. That was a long time ago.
But you know what, the first part, when you was transitioning from just amateur kind of athlete to the full-time, what the most difficulties you was facing at that time?
That's a good question. I suppose it was easier for me when I went from, my training regime went from as a casual 1 to 2 times a week, then more serious, I was training 5 days a week, then started doing a little bit of strong conditioning with it. Then when I went to Brazil, it was what I call real full-time training. So 2 jiu-jitsu a day, and then maybe 1 on Saturdays. And then when I came back here to England, I was living at Sheffield in my parents' house, but training here in Nottingham. At the beginning, I was training like super hardcore. I thought I had to do like every jiu-jitsu session, so I trained 2 or 3 times per day, basically everything, competition class, fundamentals, and advanced. The 2 biggest issues were 1, recovery, but 1, I'm massively overtrained. Like looking back,
I can tell, man.
Yeah, it was like crazy, man. I was watching a lot of these videos by a guy called Lloyd Irvin, and he was like, yeah, you got to train hard. And like, Team Lloyd Irvin would be saying that all those guys train 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. So I thought, oh, that's the minimum I've got to really do. I thought any less than that, I wasn't calling myself full time. So I was training like crazy amount. Really, that was too much. My body couldn't recover in time. And because of that, I was doing other silly things like I would train super hard Monday to Friday. But when you're training really hard, you don't really have time so much to eat. Yeah. So I wouldn't eat enough throughout that day. So Monday to Friday. And obviously you're burning fat, because you're burning so many calories. You're burning fat, but you're burning muscle as well. And then Saturday and Sunday, I would be so hungry and eat all this food, and then I'd increase fat. So I was just like, I had no sort of decent body composition at all. I was slowly decreasing muscle, slowly increasing fat. But the other biggest thing was just financially. Yeah. That was the hardest thing. I get messages, to be fair, the main type of message if I ever get people on social media, just like a random person on Instagram, is how to change from as a casual hobbyist person to a full-time competitor, it's almost always about financial questions. And the truth is, the way I did it is I trained as much as I could, but I worked another job. At some point I worked 2 other jobs. So I worked at a pub, and sometimes, especially throughout the summer, I would work as like a labourer for this guy that was doing up houses as well. What I'd do is Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays I would spend the whole day here in Nottingham, and then like Tuesday and Thursday I sometimes work at the building site doing up houses, and then I think like Tuesday, Saturday and Sunday I would work in a pub as well. I would literally do like, I would say minimum 20 hours jiu-jitsu, minimum 3 hours strength and conditioning. I'd work 3 8-hour shifts at the pub, and I would do like 2 8-hour shifts sometimes on the building site. But then the absolute pig of it was because I was coming in 5 days a week from Sheffield, I was doing another 10 hours driving on top as well. So yeah, it's hard, it's not easy, but that's the process, that's what you're going to do if you want to be able to compete internationally. I mean, I wasn't teaching at all as well. I was just trying to find a way to earn a living. It wasn't a great living, it was terrible living in many ways. It was just enough that I could compete internationally sometimes. So yeah, it was hard, but then you go through that process, and then over time, as you become a higher grade, you get more experience, you can start to phase that out, which is what I did eventually. I phased out that work, phased out the working on the houses. It was like a labourer, then I slowly phased out the pub work until it was like 1 day a week, and then into jiu-jitsu full time.
Yeah. When you look back, the day when you quit your uni, do you regret your decision?
No, definitely
Not at
No,
all.
no way, because if I got my degree, I would have been doing some just bland, regular 9 to 5.
No offense,
basic
9
office
to
job.
5 workers, yeah.
Yeah, no, to be fair, that is cool if you want to do a 9 to 5 job, but if it's a 9 to 5 job that you really like, just that for me, I didn't want to do any jobs that I was sort of heading towards, you know. So yeah, I don't regret it at all.
Okay. You know, also what I would like to ask you, because I know you're taking some lessons from the mental skills coach, Richard Mann. Hey Richard. I was listening to his some podcast, even with you as well. It was really interesting. So I would like to ask you how much it helps to people to work on their mental skills.
Well, I haven't got that into it yet. I'm just like building up my path, but already I think it's like a massive thing. You know, like Richie is a super cool guy. Like he runs like a great sort of organisation he's got there, and he's like super switched on. He understands those things so much, and yeah, when I see that the level of depth of knowledge that he's got, and what a big factor it is, you know, and like I could say from my limited experience, yeah, I think it's a big factor. But you look at any other like top level athletes, like Michael Jordan, he's a great example. Tom Brady, who won the Super Bowl recently. Like if you look at any other like super elite top level athletes, mentality is such a big thing of that. That's the tool. Your brain is the tool you're using for the thoughts and for the tactics and for the skills that you're learning, really. Your body's another tool. So there's going to be some sports like sprinting where obviously, you know, perhaps the mentality or how switched on your mind isn't going to be as big a factor as say something like being a quarterback in American football, where you've got to be on point, super sharp, high level brain activity all the time. But jiu-jitsu is like that. Jiu-jitsu is, your mind's going to be super engaged and your body's going to be super engaged. So I would say that really jiu-jitsu, all sports probably have 3 aspects. And that's one, the actual technicality, your technical knowledge, your skill set, so how good you are at jiu-jitsu. Number 2 is your physicality, you know, your body strength, conditioning, and 3 is the mentality, and that's sort of how good you are actually delivering your top level performance.
That's really cool, man. That's really cool. I really enjoyed to talk about this part. So let's go on the mats then.
Let's go on the mats.
So I would like to ask you, how is your training going right now?
Yeah, my training's going good, man. Because here, Grisbar Nottingham has elite training centre approval from the UK BJJ. It means we can do training as competition training sessions. So I'm doing that, it's going good. I'm doing a lot of strength conditioning with Informed Performance, which is run by 2 guys that also train here, also top strength conditioning experts in all of England that work for British Athletics. So I'm getting some really good training. And yeah, like you said before, I'm also working with Richard Mann on a mission. So yeah, it's going good.
I know that you had COVID, isn't it? And also you passed it to me.
Yeah.
But how did it affect you? How did you feel like during the time you was ill? after.
Yeah, but you had it as well.
I had it, but my experience wasn't so good as yours, and I actually didn't feel anything.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. What about you?
I didn't pass it through my purpose.
It was like, yes, bro.
Yeah, because we were working together.
Yeah, we were friends, we were sharing everything together.
We were working together, and I had just like a little bit of a sore throat. One day when we started working, so we were working on, it would be like a Monday evening. Then the next morning I woke up and I was like, oh, I've got a fever. And my temperature was like super hot. So I got tested straight away. It was like, I got coronavirus. And yeah, the next like 2 or 3 days were like absolutely savage. They were like so bad, it was the worst I felt. I think the main reason I felt so bad is I was super hot, I felt freezing, so I was wearing like a rain jacket but against my radiator in the bedroom, and I was just sweating loads, and it massively weakened me. I think because of the dehydration, that was the biggest factor. I couldn't make it downstairs to have like a glass of water. Eventually, on like after 2 days of in the bed, I was sleeping like 16 hours a day, I was like so dehydrated. I managed to make it downstairs, but it took me literally like 20 minutes to walk downstairs. And then when I got down, I mixed up some like hydration drink, like where you just have the jiu-jitsu, and I drank that, and it started to ease after a few days.
Do you have any fights coming soon? Any competition?
I don't know what's happening, basically. Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully. I think hopefully if there's someone's in the UK, then I'm going to do some of those for sure. Hopefully, I'm really hoping there's some way for us to travel internationally. There's a lot of big competitions that have been and have happened in America over the past year that we haven't been able to get to, here from Europe.
What was the hardest fight in your whole jiu-jitsu career?
Well, I'll give you a whole like tournament, to be fair. It was the Worlds 2015. I was purple belt, and the second year was purple belt. It was like middle heavy, World's average UGF. The first round was an absolute battle, so tough. Like I was down by 2 points, then level, then down, then level, and then with like 30 seconds left, I had like 3 advantages. Let's say that I was losing. I was 6-4. And then with 30 seconds left, I just got to like a position, just got my feet on the inside legs, and just butterfly swept, and just won. I was like on top, just like panting, like 10 seconds left. And then for that whole tournament, every single fight went like that until like every single fight I had, all the way. I got to the semis and got bronze. Every single fight I had, I was losing at some point. Every single one. Like one of the fights, I started the fight, and the guy did like an arm drag, jumped on my back within like 1 minute. I was 4-0 down. He was on my back. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be so tough. But I just kept pushing and eventually escaped, eventually worked through, and managed to battle my way to win. If anything, that tougher rounds earlier in the competition probably helped condition my mentality to be like, you know, you just won that one. It was an absolute battle. You managed to win, so let's just do it for this one.
I kind of see, like even good guys, it's always harder to win when you was losing at the beginning. It's I think in jiu-jitsu it's easier to maintain your winning position instead of the building up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what? It's always the ace question: gi or no gi?
Gi or no gi? I like them both. You know, I like them both. I mean, I've spent more time training gi overall, but the more I do one, the more fun it is to go back into the other as well. You know, if I do gi for a long time and I come back to no gi, at first, like the first few, maybe a week or two, feels alien. Then after like week 3 and 4, I'm like really liking it, getting into that groove. Same happens with gi as well. You know, I like them both. I wouldn't want to get rid of one or get rid of the other.
I actually know that you was facing the new UFC prospect from UK, body to body on a competition in jiu-jitsu. Can you tell us how it was, where it was?
Yeah,
how did it end up?
That would have been Manchester. In fact, I think I fought him a few times.
Oh really?
Yeah, I fought him a few times. Yeah, like he for sure beat me at blue belt, for sure. And maybe we fought again, but then I can't remember. I fought sometimes, but then we fought also in ADCC Nationals when I was a purple belt. I think maybe he was a brown belt.
But how did you finish that last fight?
And that last fight, like, it's an unusual finish. It was an unusual one. It's a good one that you brought up there, right? Because yeah, it's a strange one. It was a strange one. I think the actual real term for it.
You know what? Yeah. Let's just show it. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a technique I've used a few times, guys, as well. You know, it's like high percentage. I use it in the gym a lot. I've fought recently a black belt against another really good guy called Sebastian Brosh as well. And this is like a similar technique, a little bit different finish, but it's the same principle.
So here, let's say I'm on top, so I was on top in that fight here, and I'm looking for this far side wrist control. So my left hand goes to the opposite wrist here. Now what I'm looking to do is create some space over the top. So I'm going to jump over, and my right arm's going to connect to my left hand here. So I'm doing a forwards roll motion. So personally I would like to have my right leg forwards here. If it's grabbing my leg single leg X, top half guard, sort of anyone, it doesn't make a difference. So here, as I roll forwards, my right arm's going to connect. I'm going to go here and jump over the top. Now here, this looks like a middle position, so it looks like a neutral position, but it's not. I'm at a huge advantage because of this control. So not only does it threaten the Kimura itself, but I can also push it onto Raf's stomach here to keep him on the mat. Now from here, I'm going to use that push onto the stomach so I can get up on top, and I'm tracking the tips on the ground. Now what I found, and this is what happened in this fight, sometimes it's hard to finish this Kimura, especially if the person's turning towards it. Okay? It's hard. Even if I can get the hand out, there's no space to actually finish the Kimura. The hand's on the ground. Here I'd be looking to step the leg over the head, I still can't finish it. Because there's no space to go into. So what I did, and what I use a lot, is my right hand's going to go over the top, I'm going to connect to the wrist here. So you guys can see that, I'm using a single hand. Now my left hand's going to go across the far side. This blocks his ability to sit up. If I didn't do that, Raf could just sit up here and go with the Kimura. So my left hand's going to block him, trap him on the ground, and from here I'm just going to rock to create that space that I needed before. Then I just turn the hand behind the back to get the submission. So it solves the problem of the space, but also allows me to get the tap.
Thank you very much, Sean. That was really nice. So after this little workout, I think I got a little bit hungry. Do you want to go for a meal?
Yes, man.
That's the favorite time. So yeah, Sean, I know when you're a professional athlete, it's like your lifestyle. It's not like many time off of it. But what actually do you like to do when you're not doing sports?
Probably mostly eat fish and chips in the park. Nah, obviously this is a treat and it's nice to have it. But yeah, when I'm taking time off, it's tough because jiu-jitsu was my hobby before doing it professionally. So that was just the thing that I was doing for fun. In reality, there is less time for hobbies. And also jiu-jitsu is a little bit unsociable hours sometimes. That's a lot of evenings and weekends, so that's where everybody else is free to train. I like to go down to Cornwall, like when I can. I like to do a little bit of fishing, a little bit of surfing.
Are you good at surfing?
No, I'm not good at fishing either, but I like to do both of them.
Okay.
I'm not good at any of those other things, but they're just fun, it's nice to relax as well.
Do you have the cheat meals very often? Not really, no.
It depends what time of year it is. Like, over the past year, I'd say year and a half, I've taken my diet much more serious. But always if it was in the run-up to a big competition, even when I was less serious about my diet, I'd still be eating well all the time. In the off-season or after the World or something like that, yeah, I would take some time off and just relax and enjoy myself a bit more.
But what's your favourite cheat meal?
Favourite cheat meal? Good question. I'm gonna say, I don't know, man.
Let's make it top 5. Let's make
top 5 cheat meals, okay. I'm gonna say pizza's got to be within the top 5, and I'm gonna go apple crumble and ice cream.
Okay.
Do you know apple crumble, man? It's very like English dessert. No. It's very nice.
Oh, is it when the apple with the what's it called?
Crumble.
Yeah.
it's like crumbled up sort of like pastry. It's a nice dessert. I used to have to cook way more for competitions, and what I could tell was when I was really hungry, I'd be like, this is like before Instagram. I would look at YouTube and I would watch like cooking videos or videos of people eating. I'd be like, oh wow. When I make weight, I'm just gonna go crazy, and I'd be so hungry. But now I don't have to do those extremes.
Same as me, like recently, a month ago, I was fasting, and I started to follow so many guys who was cooking, and I was like, yeah, nice, I'll eat this one today, eat this one tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you know what? When you're fasting, you can't eat, man. You just eat a little meal and then that's it, man. And you think like, oh, I would eat this, but no, man. You're stuck. There's no space for it.
Yeah. And it's the same would happen after like the World. I'm like, oh, I can eat whatever I want now. And the first meal, you like stuff your face, and oh man, like so much food. And then the second one, and you get full of them quicker. your stomach's shrunk, then you think, oh, I can eat all these donuts or whatever I want, but then you don't want them anymore, and it lasts for like 5 minutes, you know.
And of course, now it was difficult to have hobbies because of Corona, but without it,
yeah, without coronavirus.
how would you spend your weekends?
Man, you're asking me bad questions. You're making me feel incredibly boring here. I would be doing jiu-jitsu all on the side.
Your answers make me feel you're super boring as well.
A lot of time I'm just super tired from the week of training before, teaching that. I just want to relax a little bit. Do the same things most people want to do. Have some food, you know, relax, just hang out with some people.
I would like to ask you last question. Yeah. What is the most important thing for you in your life?
Not jiu-jitsu. Because, you know, I mean, you've got to keep a little bit of perspective. Obviously, you know, it would be the things that matter to everybody in the world, you know, my family's well-being, my health, you know, these things are the ultimate priority. You know, you can never look to sacrifice those things for anything you're doing, you know, so that's always going to be the most important thing. But then, as far as like ambitions and what I actually want to achieve in life, then for sure it's around jiu-jitsu. You know, my ambitions would be to do jiu-jitsu to the best of my abilities, and then later on, if I can make, you know, a career and set my family up so, you know, they're doing well, then that's what someone I'd like to achieve as well. But ambition. But even if you had to say for me to choose between, you know, like struggling but do great at jiu-jitsu, or having a much easier life but doing poor jiu-jitsu, I would choose struggling and doing well. Like, I still want to achieve a lot in jiu-jitsu, even right now.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. That tells a lot of you, and I hope you achieve big results you want, man.
Nice
yeah,
one, man.
Good luck with that. Thank you very much, Sean.
Nice one, Ralph.
That was really
Cheers,
nice.
had a good day, man.
Yeah, me too, man. It was really nice to spend some time together, isn't
Nice.
it?
Yeah, it's been good.
Outside of the gym.
Yeah,
Nice
definitely.
one more time.
Nice one. Cheers, man.
See you soon, guys.
See you soon, man.
Like, subscribe, all that stuff, you know.
Yeah.